This tutorial is designed to help you understand how to use Google Forms as a teaching resource. I'm currently inside Google Drive, and my preferred method for designing a form is to right-click in whatever folder I want that form to be stored in. So for example, in my Drive, inside the Technology folder, I have Google Classroom Lessons. I'll click on that. So I have animation, science, slides, docs, drawings, forms, lucid charts, and math. I try to organize all of my lessons in a very tidy fashion so that I can find them easily. In here I have a Forms folder, and this is where I house my Google Forms and the spreadsheets that are attached to them. I find that Google Forms is helpful not only for survey-oriented information, but it's also good for student-related feedback or assessments. Inside Google Forms, you can set up Google Forms in such a way that it functions like a quiz or a test, and it's pretty much self-grading. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to double-click on Latin and Greek roots for 4th grade. My teaching strategy is usually helicopter-like and then detail-oriented. So the first portion of my lesson is going to go pretty quickly, and I'm just going to give you an overview, and then I'm going to come back and I'll move step by step. So this is kind of more of just go ahead and watch and become more familiar with what this tool is all about. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to actually micromanage each of those steps, and then I'll walk you through how to successfully create and utilize a form. So this is one that I've already designed, and this is what it looks like when I look at it. When the children look at it, it will look a little bit different from this. Because I am a teacher on special assignment and I serve teachers, I included this teacher portion right here for the children. It just is another layer of making sure that all of the data is organized well. It's not necessary for you to include that if you're designing this specifically for your students. In my Google form, you will notice how it boasts of a name. However, that particular section is completely unnecessary. Based on the way that you post this assignment into Google Classroom, you will not need a name section. If this assignment is posted correctly in Google Classroom will automatically identify each student for you. So you'll notice in this image how it showcases that the child is notified that his or her email address will be posted, and they don't have to post their name to this assignment at all. So as I scroll through here, there are several questions for the students to respond to. And this is the design portion of it. So this is what it looks like for me. The untitled section, I can probably title it Section 2. It probably doesn't matter. The only reason why I put sections in there is that when the children are testing, they're right next to each other, and I don't love the idea of everyone having access to the same question, the same section, all at the same time. So when a child moves on to a new section, a new portion of the quiz or assessment, then the child next to them doesn't have access to looking at that first section. It's pretty much unnecessary and not important. It all just depends on your organizational strategy and how you want to facilitate a test. One benefit I find when it comes to breaking up a Google form into sections is that if you want to differentiate part 1 from part 2, because maybe part 1 is multiple choice, part 2 might be short answer, if part 3 is long answer, then you've already front-loaded that vocabulary for the children and you let them know. In this section, you're going to do this particular thing. In this next section, you're going to do a particular thing, and so on. So here are another series of questions for the children to respond to. You have the luxury of choosing the different types of questions that go in here and the types of information that goes in here. I'm going to talk about the response section up here. This little green button right here lets you view the spreadsheet associated with this document. Again, I said that I was going to go quickly at the very beginning. I'm just giving you a helicopter overview, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to move slowly. So if you're frustrated at all, be patient, and I'll head back and I'll explain more about that. This particular form is empty because the children have not responded to the questions. Once the children have responded to the questions, then all of that data is going to populate inside of this spreadsheet, and you have access to that information. So on this tab right here, I'm going to click back. So we were on the spreadsheet, now we're in the form. These tools up here allow you to either apply add-ons. Add-ons are accessories that usually try to help this Google tool function more successfully. And although I am familiar with some add-ons that are very specific to Google Forms, I don't want to overwhelm you in this initial tutorial and share with you too much information about that. This little color palette tool right here lets you choose what color scheme you want, or you can click on the mountain over here. I'll do this in a little while. The eyeball right here allows you to look at this Google form as though you are the participant and not the editor. So you can actually go in here and do the quiz or the test or the survey or whatever you have designed the form for, and you can pretend that you're a student just to make sure that it functions properly. I'm not purposefully choosing the correct answers. I'm just randomly selecting choices, kind of just showing you what it looks like. The adult or the child, if you're doing a survey, maybe adults would be receiving it. You wouldn't have points associated for a survey to adults, but the children in this particular situation are working on a quiz, and they have an opportunity to see that each particular question is worth 5 points. That's why it says 5 points over here. Because there are two sections, page 1 and page 2, this next button would then launch the children onto that section 2. It's probably going to give me a warning because I didn't answer all the mandatory pieces, and that's exactly what the children would experience as well. So I love this feature because there are times where I make mistakes, it's not done correctly. I have an opportunity to go in and make those adjustments before the children or the adults have access to this resource. So I'm going to close this tab. Yes, I want to leave it. I'm going to head back to questions. At this point, I think the only other piece that I want to mention, that was my phone, I'm sorry about that, is this folder right here. If for some reason you design the form in a location where you don't want it to be there, it ends up landing in the wrong folder. This particular tool allows you the luxury of moving it from one folder to another seamlessly so that you have all of your resources organized in a tidy fashion. So let me click on this tab right here, and here I am back in my Forms folder. I'm going to do a right click, which brings up this small menu. I'm going to click on the word More. After I click on the word More, I'm just going to choose Google Forms. Whenever a brand new Google form shows up, it looks exactly like this. It's purple and it says Untitled Form. I'm going to be designing a 5th grade grammar assessment, and I have already typed up all of the items that I want inside that quiz in a Word document. So let me click back here for just a second. So I have all of the questions that I want in the assessment located here in this Word document. I felt like it would be a better use of your time if I had that information all typed up and ready to go. So I have my initial question, my 3 correct responses, and my incorrect response. Step number 1 for me is usually titling it. So I'm going to call this 05 Grammar Quiz. Now, I've titled the actual quiz 05 Grammar Quiz. So 05 is my organizational strategy that lets me know that this is 5th grade. When I click up here, this is the actual area where the Google form is going to be titled inside my Google Docs. And by clicking there one time, it instantly grabs this information. Let me click on this tab right here. And you'll notice oh, it was down there and it just jumped because it wanted to put itself in alphabetical order. Now, right here, I have 05 grammar quiz located right here. And I also have another one right here, which is a different one. But let me click right here on my tutorial that I'm using for this session. Form description right here. If you choose to include just a few sentences letting your students know what to expect during this quiz, you could do that here. Usually I would put instructions here. This is something that I feel is beneficial not only for me but also for the students. Read the questions carefully. Select your answer with care. Submit the form when done. Okay, so that's what the children will see. In the response tab from here, I usually click Create Spreadsheet. If you choose to create the spreadsheet in advance, you can do that, and then you would just turn around and select the spreadsheet that you've already designed, and that's totally fine. My go-to strategy is just to let Google design it for me. So I always just have this first button selected. It names it based on the name of the form itself, and then in parentheses we'll choose the word responses. So I'm going to click the word create. Google is kind enough to always open that up and show me that spreadsheet just to make sure that I know that they clearly did their job. So I can click this and close this because I don't need it right now. If I ever want it again, I can come back and access that. Now, although along the top it says that there's absolutely no information whatsoever, as I modify the quiz over here, Google is going to turn around and modify this along here and put the questions along the top for me. I do not at all have to go back in and make modifications to this document. Google will take care of that for me. So I'm going to click the little X right here because I don't need that tab right now. I've already figured out what those responses are going to be. I'm going to spruce it up by making it cuter. I chose the palette. I chose the little mountain. You can choose the various different subcategories along the left over here. It will help you kind of organize your thoughts well if you want it themed a specific way. You'll notice how the flames are lifting right here on the barbecue grill. There are a few of these picture items that are animated. For example, in sports and games, there's a basketball one where the gentleman keeps shooting the basketball all over again. You'll see how this foot lightly jostles that soccer ball just a little bit. It's a new added touch that Google came up with. In my opinion, it's recently. I haven't done the research to figure out exactly when they did that. So I will just choose something that's simple. I'll choose the popcorn. It's mildly animated. It might make my students smile just a little bit. It's up to you what you choose and how you choose to organize those details. From here, I'm going to choose the gear where it says settings. And when I do that, for this particular tool, it is a quiz. So I don't need the children to give me their email addresses. If I were designing this as a survey for adults, I might request that the email addresses get collected. That's up to you. I'm going to restrict it only to Clovis Unified School District users. No one's really going to have access to this information other than the students who are a part of my Google Classrooms, so this is somewhat unnecessary. If you want the children to have access to editing their information after submission, that probably wouldn't apply to a quiz, but maybe under another circumstance that would work out smoothly. As the children are looking at it, if you choose to shuffle the question order, you're more than welcome to do that. If they are elbow to elbow with one another in a computer lab situation, it would be perfect for those to be shuffled about so that not every child has access to exactly the same question at the same time. Here in the quiz area, I'm going to make this a quiz. It's up to you if you want to release the graded information immediately after submission, or if you would prefer to hold on to that and then give them access to that information at a later date. So you choose right here or here if the children have access to whether or not the question is incorrect or correct, and whether or not they have access to the actual correct answer. You make those selections here, and then you can save your changes. At this point, I'm going to click where it says questions, and then I'm going to copy and paste my questions and my answers from my Word document over here into Forms. Now, I did mention that add-ons are a potential option for you if that's a resource, and there is a tool in there that allows you to bring in information from Google Docs seamlessly. Only 10 questions are free, and then after that point, then you pay if you want to utilize that resource, but I'm not going to head into that right now. I'm just going to choose the easiest way of doing this tutorial. So I'm going to copy the question. I'm going to paste it here into the question field. If you don't want to copy and paste and you just want to type it, you clearly have the luxury of doing that. Right here, I need to toggle this button over to the right so that the question is required. Please note in my tutorial earlier how I mentioned that the name section is not important. As long as you are posting this to Google Classroom the right way, then the name section is not necessary. However, if this form is going out to parents, the name section would be perfect. So utilize the name section only if you feel that it's necessary based on the type of form that you are designing. But again, if it's going to students and you post it to Google Classroom correctly, the name section is not necessary. Toolbar that's over here on the right will continue to move down as you move throughout your quiz or your survey. And this top button right here that has a plus symbol in it lets you add the next question, the next question, and the next question. Now I can have access to editing this question. In order to edit this question, I need to click to activate this box. So you'll notice how the perimeter of each of these questions modifies just a little bit when I'm selecting that one specifically. So I want to come back to this area. Now I have chosen multiple choice as my answer option. I clicked on this little down-facing triangle right here, and this menu appears and it lets you choose from a host of different answer opportunities. So if you want to add any one of these other resources, you can. Short answer, paragraph. If you want the children to check boxes, this would be really good if there's more than one correct answer, or in a survey. If parents are willing to bring multiple items to a gathering or a party or an event, or if they want to volunteer, but they want to volunteer on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, you have the luxury of choosing what type of response what type of responses you want to receive for each of those questions. So let me head back to the Word document for table able. For enter, table able. And I hit enter after each one of those submissions. I could have done copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, but for responses that were so small, I didn't think that would be the best use of my time. The answer key option only shows up because I have communicated to my Google form that I want this to be a quiz. So I'm now going to click on answer key, and I'm going to choose the correct answer for this particular question. So the suffix on workable is able, and I can choose however many points I want for this particular question. I'm just holding the up and down arrow, and it's just causing the numbers to increase or decrease. You also can come along and actually type the number in. So it's up to you if you want to use the up down arrow or if you want to type the number in. For this quiz, I think 5 is sufficient. And now I'm going to add the next question. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to copy the question. I'm going to paste it here in this area. I think multi-use can be hyphenated, M-U-L-T-I-U-S-E, can be hyphenated or non-hyphenated. And then I'm going to copy, paste, click, select, copy, click, paste. Google also affords you the opportunity of just leaving the word other as an option. For example, if you provided the children with 4 wrong answers, on some occasions tests will do that, and the child would then have the luxury of indicating that none of the answers that have been provided are the correct answer. You could do that, or if there were a fill-in option where the answers that have been provided are all incorrect, and you would prefer that the children then have an opportunity of choosing other and then typing in an alternative response, then that's an option. The little X over here gives you the opportunity to erase any of those dummy answers or correct answers that you put in there. If you're partway in and you change your mind and you want to get rid of them, each of these X's right here lets you get rid of that. If you want to shuffle the option order per child, then you could choose that, and per child the options would then shuffle. I want every question to be required, which means that as the children are going through and taking the quiz, I don't want to give them the opportunity or the option of skipping any of the questions. I want every single question responded to at this time. So required is what I would like. If I want to delete the entire question, I can delete the entire question. If I have several questions that are quite similar to one another, I can hit the duplicate button, and then it would make a Xerox copy of this question. In a grammar quiz, that might be a fantastic option, because if my 4 answer choices over and over again are noun, verb, adjective, and adverb, then I don't have to retype those items over and over again, and then I can just modify the question that's housed in each one of those boxes as I see fit. And so that's a really fantastic time saver, depending on the type of quiz that you are designing. So again, 5 questions, 5 points, and then I'm going to hit the add question. Over here, if I want to add an image, or if I want to add a YouTube video, or I want to add a section, then that's what these particular things are over here. Or a title and a description. If you need a title to differentiate how these next few questions are going to be a little bit different, then you can do that. You don't have to completely design a whole new section in order to make a change in the midst of a test. So you might start off with multiple choice. I believe I said this earlier in my tutorial. Then maybe you want short answer and then long answer, or maybe your transition is more of a video. I want you to watch this video and then respond to the video in the next series of questions. A good example of that would be in January, as a nation, we remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. If you want to pull in a Kid President video on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and then ask some comprehension questions related to that video, you could embed the video into your Google form and then form those questions after that video. So it is a non-literary comprehension assessment with the video as the non-literary component that you would assess the children on. So that would be one example. If you're wanting someone to write a response or maybe design an introductory paragraph of some kind and you want to include a picture, maybe you want to look through some images about cake, and then you want to choose in the tools that you are looking for something that can be shareable. So let me choose images. After I choose images, then I'll choose tools, and then the usage rights, I have permission to reuse it. So here are a variety of different images where I could reuse them. I could click on any one image. I could right click and then save the image. It'll open up whatever folder I utilized last. I'll call this cake number 2. It's now saved in a particular folder on my computer. If I want to include an image, I would pull that image from my computer. Going to look for cake number 2. After I double click, it will upload that image. and it just imported that image here. So if I want a short response, if I want my students to identify an adverb in a sentence or a verb in a sentence, and I want to encourage them to be creative thinkers and utilize some aspect of a picture, then I can do that. Maybe sports or a movement-oriented picture would be a smarter selection, but you can import an image of any type and include that into your form as you see fit. And if you choose to take it away, the delete button's right here, and now it's gone. YouTube videos, you could do Kid President. So here's the story of Martin Luther King by Kid President. The children would have access to this video while they were responding to the question. And then this all by itself could be the question if you choose. And then after that, then you could start off this next question by encouraging them to utilize the information that was housed inside of the video to respond to the following questions. So I only put that in there for the purpose of a teaching example. Let me go ahead and click delete right here, and then I'm going to hit pause on the video. I'm going to go through and put a whole lot more questions in, and then I'll summarize my thoughts in just a second. Okay, so now I'm back. I was able to make a few edits. I found some errors and was able to fix those. I've gone through and I was able to copy and paste the information from the Word document here into the form, and I have pasted the dummy answers and one correct answer into each one. I have identified that every question must be answered. It is required, and I have selected the correct answer on each one. If you ever find an error at this point and you need to go in and make any modifications to that, then you would select that particular question, and then down here you have the Edit Question button. So if you forgot to click Required, then you can toggle that over and make sure that it's required. If you chose, if there's any type of error of some kind, then this is the time to do that. And then once I choose the Answer key button, then this is where I would choose the correct answer, which allows Google the luxury of correcting and grading this entire quiz for me. The only thing that Google wouldn't be able to do seamlessly without an add-on, there are add-ons that will go in and grade the typed responses. So I've added a section right here, and I will show you how to do that. If you are in the middle of your survey or quiz and you click this button and you have decided, oh no, I clicked it in the wrong spot, let me just do that and show you what it looks like. So I clicked the Add a Section button up here, and I have realized, oh no, I don't want to have a new section right here. You can click on what I call the snowman right here, the dot 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 in the vertical position, and then you can just merge with above. And that's the way that you would just delete that section. So the question that you were previously on just instantly gets scooped up, and it now lives in that previous section. I purposefully designed a new section, so I have a short answer section down here. I have specific instructions that I've typed along here. I gave a small example for the children to follow right here, and then I have a series of short answer questions that I want them to respond to. I'm going to click on a few of these questions and then deposit a picture inside, and I'm going to choose the image and then Cake 2, which is what I worked on earlier. I will double click that, it will come here, and I made a mistake, so let me click delete. If you click this one, it's going to deposit a unique picture all by itself, like what just happened, and I actually want it inside the question. So this little symbol that is not normally there but only shows up when I come close to it is actually what I wanted. So let me choose, and then I'll double click on Cake. And now that specific picture will populate in here. I would like to add a caption, because I want the children to know that it's optional for them to utilize this particular picture. Optional. Use this image if it is helpful for you. So the children don't have to utilize that picture. It's just a creative thought starter as they're thinking about an adverb. And maybe the chef creatively added fruit to the top. However they choose to utilize an adverb for that particular situation is up to them. It's only for the kiddos who might be stumped and need a small pointer. Let's head this direction. And then I'll put a volleyball in this one. Let me swing to the bottom. Volleyball right there. That was an open source image that I found on the internet. I was granted permission to reuse it, and so I am reusing it. Let me throw in a small caption. And to save time, I can actually just copy this caption and then place it right here, right here. And earlier it just gave you the opportunity of removing, changing, and then moving it. If you want the picture to sit in a particular location, those tools are available to you. I'm going to click on required. I'm going to double check that that one is required. I'm going to come down to this last question. I'm going to verify that it is required. I probably have at least 5 more minutes to just go through and look and make sure that if I have any typos, I can fix those before I send it over to the children. And one tool that I'm going to use is I'm going to use this little eyeball right here. I'm just going to verify that it looks correct. And then the next natural question is, now that you're finished with it, how do you use it in the classroom? Let me explain that. So at this point in time, now that the form has been finished and it's ready to go, I want to share it with my students. And the best way to do this is to go straight into Google Classroom and to pull this finished form into this specific class. So I'm going to press the plus button right down here. I'm going to create an assignment. I'm going to title that assignment 5th grade grammar quiz. If I choose to put instructions, I can put those instructions here. See attached to Google form. If I want to put a date, I can. If I want to specify that this is only supposed to go to particular students, I can choose that right here. If I want to assign it to multiple classes, I can. However, if you're going to assign it to multiple classrooms, it may be highly beneficial that the form itself have a piece on here that might say the teacher's name or period 3 or some identifier to help you differentiate how to put those grades into the grade book or organize that information. So from here, the only button down on the bottom that I'm going to select is going to be the drive icon. And so the only item I'm going to choose down here at the bottom is the Google Drive icon. It's going to pull up all of my recent items as long as that is selected. So here I have the grammar quiz right here. If I double click on that, it will deposit right into here. Then I have the luxury of choosing either to schedule it. Maybe I don't want it to go live until Monday of next week or Tuesday of next week. Maybe I want to save it as a draft because I'm not quite sure I want this assignment to go live just now. Or I can just click assign and it will instantly assign to this specific class. So when the children click on this, they will see it on their end just like this. And instead of having my email address right here, their email addresses will appear here. And then when we spoke earlier about how the responses are collected, all of their email addresses will populate here into this Google Sheet, and I will know exactly which student responded to each individual question. And because this has been designed in such a way that the answer key is already embedded in here and the points are already here, then all of that information will also populate on that sheet as the students finished. Back here where it shows responses, I'm going to click on this green thing. This little green button is going to open that original document that I showcased earlier. And when I showed it to you earlier, a lot of this information up at the top was missing, and now it has all been populated in here splendidly. So all of that information will populate in here once the children are finished, and then it will actually also give me a score, letting me know the scores of the children. Here I have opened up a grammar quiz response sheet for 3rd grade, and this is an actual class. These are real students who had an opportunity to answer these questions. I erased the Who is Your Teacher portion because I didn't want you to have access to that information. I didn't ask her if I could post her information. I'm clicking and sliding over here so that I can elongate these. When it comes time for you to analyze that data, if you are unable to read all of the information, you're more than welcome to make adjustments to each of these columns to see any of the information that's needed. And this salmon colored column right here is where Google has done most of the work for me. I don't want to say all of the work, but most of the work. Based on the first 13 questions, I have scores on these 13. I came over here and illuminated the correct answers. That was a strategy that I chose to do. To illuminate any cells here in sheets, you would highlight those, and after highlighting them, it's the bucket up here, and you can turn around and make them any color that you want. I'm very visual, and so it just saves me time to highlight or color different things. Use whatever organizational strategy works perfect for you. Well, thank you so much for watching. This was a lengthy video. I hope it helps you and encourages you and sets you on the right path to be very successful with this resource. Have a great day.